Okay, we'll be going live in a couple of minutes. This is a very important night. It's the beginning of a new relationship I hope to establish with many of you. Okay, so I'm going to give it a couple more minutes for others to join us. So stay put. I'll be right back. Okay, great. Want to make sure that the sound is all good. Uh, if anybody wants to just comment on the section below, that will be fantastic. Okay, here in the comment section, I want to make sure that the sound is audible. I'm not using a microphone today, so but hopefully you can all bear with us. So, well, good evening and welcome to the New York NLP Institute. Tonight's talk is on telehealth, on NLP, and on the coming mental health crisis. So before we start, I want to just take a couple of moments to give me 1 second. I want to take a couple of moments. So last few months. It's been a couple months since we last connected, and a lot's changed. It's amazing how things that appear to be science fiction all of a sudden become a reality to many of us. And it does seem like we really stepped into a world that is now surrealistic, very different from the way it was January or even December of last year. And for a lot of us, it's been a very difficult period. Some of us may have come down with corona. Some of us are still concerned about getting the virus. And in addition, we're getting lots of stories about the impact that corona can have, anything from neurological damage all the way to impairment, uh, organ failure, or even death. So clearly, the environment, I would say, is being one of tremendous concern, a lot of fear. And believe me, I don't think there's anyone who is alive who hasn't felt a moment of trepidation and concern. Personally, when I got the corona, or I suspect I got something maybe a couple of months back, I was very concerned, and there were nights I couldn't even sleep. I had a hard time, so I had to use the tools that I've learned to calm myself down and to really focus. And I'm very grateful I used those tools because it made me stay centered. Uh, and this really brings us to really the subject of tonight's talk, which is that we basically are facing a major mental health crisis right now. And not only have we lost over 100,000 Americans in the last few months, and sadly more to come, we're also facing right now a major mental health crisis. Now, the subject of tonight's talk is not just to sell a product to you, or try to gain your confidence that NLP is the greatest thing since apple pie. It's more about really looking at the larger picture, looking at what's happening is affecting us not just personally, but collectively. This is something that we really need to think and meditate upon. Each one of us has plans for the future. We all have our own ways of interacting and deciding how we're going to move forward. But also behind that is this concern, this looming concern of how this post-COVID economy will impact us. And honestly, I don't think there's anyone out there who can tell you what what's going to be the impact. I mean, take for instance today's paper. The economy generated 2.5 million jobs, even though the number of unemployed has risen. So we're not sure really where we're heading. I would say most economists do believe that at the very least it will be 6 months to 12 months. Many people are still concerned about the impact of corona on their life, of catching the virus. Here in New York, we basically got hit really hard, but outside the US, you're just beginning to really feel it. So it's hard to say really how the impact, how this this virus will impact the economy. I'm gonna just now start screen sharing with you guys some of the headlines I've seen in the last couple of days. So, for instance, here we go. Here we go. This is one of the first ones that caught my eye. The U.S. is ill prepared for a coronavirus health crisis. Um, when I saw that, I was shocked. I mean, I thought that our mental health care system is still adequate. It has at least some sort of some resources. But I kept reading more about it. Just to give you a little sample of what I saw, and I became more and more outraged. Let me see here. Here we go. Can't turn my brain off. PTSD and burnout threaten medical workers. These guys are our first responders, and they are victims. They are in effect being impacted not only by COVID, but by the trauma of seeing people die before them, or the agitation, the nervousness, the anxiety that comes with it. Let me give you one more here. Okay. So what I'm concerned about is the following: is that we have an explosion of here you go. One more. Let's see if I can catch it. Oh, here we go. Coronavirus pandemic is pushing America into a mental health crisis. Now, mind you, keep in mind the following: the lockdown will be lifted at some point. Maybe in New York, they're saying by sometime in August. But the casualties of this mental health crisis will continue to mount, because once the period where we are in it together leaves us, those people who have been impacted, who have been traumatized by seeing many die or the treatment of others, will continue to have these symptoms. Now, I don't really feel to uh, understand that the healthcare system is woefully inadequate. Let's look back at 20 years ago when we had many of our veterans coming back from the Iraq War. And I've spoken to many of these veterans, and basically they had them go to VA hospitals. And at VA hospitals, they had to wait sometimes weeks or months before they were attended to. In fact, some of them actually couldn't wait and they killed themselves. While it's true that over 100,000 people are going to be dying from corona, or have died, and many more, the other data point, which we often overlook, is the amount of suicides that will take place after corona, when people are in the midst of a major depression, the amount of anxiety, the amount of child abuse, the amount of battering, that is incalculable. And that will amount to a huge number of casualties as well. So even though we may have temporarily flattened the curve for the virus, we have yet to flatten the curve for the mental health crisis that's upon us. So as I read some of these articles that I mentioned to you, I started getting more and more outraged, because there are techniques which I've used personally over years, which will take somebody who has a PTSD disorder, and within a matter of 2 or 3 sessions, it disappears. And right now, I'm reading that PTSD is an intractable situation. It's very hard to treat. And as a result, we got to expose our vets to MDMA and other sorts of medication. Although that might be good for some people, I don't expect to see millions of people on MDMA anytime soon. So what do we do about PTSD? What do we do? Do we just let these people die or suffer? Do we just have another wave of homelessness created by this pandemic? Or do we take action? Do we decide, okay, we're going to do something now to help our human being? You see, for the last 3 months, we had that. We had that sense of camaraderie. We're in it together. So everybody talks to each other with their masks. But what happens when everybody leaves? All those people will be suffering alone. They might be afraid to go home. They might be afraid to leave home. But sure enough, I can count that Big Pharma will step to the rescue, and they will continue to administer medication to people who really don't need it. Now, I do know that in some cases, in suicidal cases, maybe some medications can be useful, but overall, Big Pharma is overused, especially in this country, or is allowed to advertise on television around the clock. So let's think about that for a second. What happens to those people then who come back? Well, I guess they'll be just medicated, or they'll just be a victim or a casualty of that. Well, personally, I'm not ready to accept that reality. I'm not ready to just let others just go by the wayside. So I've been thinking for the last couple of months about how to create a program that enables us to really help out those people. Now, NLP, some of you might or might not have learned NLP or be familiar, has a series of technologies which, when administered, can resolve anxiety disorders and PTSD very, very quickly. Now, unfortunately, the administration of this technology often falls in the hands of quote unquote VA hospitals, which are notoriously obstinate about incorporating any other technology. But I'll give you a little example. There's something called the rewind technique, which is used by some VA hospitals, and surprisingly, it's identical to the fast phobia technique, which was created by Richard Bandler and John Grinder in the late 70s. And yet they say, well, the application of NLP in hospitals is not impactful. And yet I see, well, what about the rewind technique? So we have, in a way, we need to apply a stealth approach to impacting these people. We need to do that. We cannot just go around talking to the paper and say, oh, okay, we have NLP. The paper will say, okay, well, there's the social worker over here that will help you. But unfortunately, a lot of social workers and a lot of therapists and a lot of psychologists and worse, psychiatrists, many of them might mean well. But when it comes to really using the technology to make a shift within 1 or 2 sessions, they're reluctant. Let's face it, many of them rely on the patient's money for them to come back. They want to make sure that you come back for more treatment. In NLP, we have the opposite problem. I had a fellow a couple of months back who had severe PTSD from abuse from he experienced when he was very young. After 5 sessions, he no longer sees me. In fact, he's running his company now. He's at whenever he calls me, basically we talk about how he can create this new persona because most of the people, most of his employees thought that he was basically a basket case. So I am absolutely determined to make sure that this technology is out there. So I am going to be doing a couple of programs in the next few weeks. One of them is a program is called it's an online program, and it's the first online program that's ever been approved by Richard Bandler and the Society of NLP. It allows you to essentially learn NLP online. This is a very rigorous program. This is not for everyone. It's only for those who are truly dedicated and committed to really helping their fellow human being. This is not about making the big bucks. I think the big bucks stop here. Because essentially anyone who comes around and tells you, I got this great coaching program, or I got this, unfortunately, he's selling you a bag of goods that is worthless. Right now, we're in it together for a while. We can think about raising and growing our business, but I think our obligation as human beings is to help the other human being as well. And there are many of them. So going back to the program, this is an 80-hour program. We meet twice a day, 3 times a week for a month and a half, and it ends in August where we actually are going to meet live and be tested. For those who are interested or who may have friends who are interested, spread the word. I'm not here to sell anything to you, but I just want to share this information with you so you're aware there are others out there who are trying to make a difference. I'm also going to be creating a program that is a 2-day program, but basically is focused specifically on PTSD, anxiety, and trauma. Now, the prerequisite for this is that you do have some sort of background in either NLP or cognitive behavioral therapy, some other therapeutic modality. So really, you don't have to start from scratch. Most important is this: although NLP has been designed to be impactful and yet with a very little downside, yet there are some people out there who apply it in such a way it just does the opposite. So I'm going to be very rigorous in expecting that the application is exactly the way it's designed. Because it's like a recipe. If you follow this application, you will get results. On the other hand, if you start making things along the way, thinking that your method is better, well, you might not. In fact, you might end up hurting your client. So for those who are truly serious about joining me, and this is going to be a small group of only 12 people, starting August, June 22nd, running till second week in August. Who are really serious, let me know. Send me an email. For those who are interested in the 2-day program, let me know. Send me an email. And also, any of you who have other skills, and I'm more than willing to go out there and be talking about NLP all day long in other platforms, podcasts, interviews. My point is to spread the word. Really, if we get an army of people who are believers, who believe that we can truly change one person at a time, we can make an impact on what's going on. I will not rely on the government or the social workers. They might make a difference. I doubt it. They never did. They didn't do it in the 70s. They didn't do it in the 90s. And unfortunately, I don't think they'll do it now. There's no money for that. However, we can step forward and make a difference in our lives and the lives of other people. So that's the basic message that I wanted to share with you. That right now, this is the beginning, the ground floor of really creating something special, something that will help people. Now, I'm in the process of writing a book. The book is, and I'm going to show you in a second. This book basically, here. Okay, here we go. The theater of the mind. Basically, in a nutshell, the mind works like a theater. And the recent films such as, say, someone like Jaws. Someone saw Jaws and they felt, look, Jaws was, after watching Jaws, I couldn't go in the water. Or have you ever heard that song that 2 or 3 hours later, it keeps running inside your mind, wondering how is this stuck in my head? Well, the mind is a perfect learning machine. Now, PTSD is a very extreme, radical example of that. So I have a model called the theater of the mind, which actually had been, it was originally shown in a theatrical setup. And I had people walk up to me after the show telling me, I'm not sure what you did, but I somehow feel much better about this incident or that incident. So that got me thinking it may be possible to create a theater of the mind for large groups of people. That is, not just one person at a time, but 10 or 20 or 30. It's a form of mass hypnosis, but it's not hypnosis because you're very aware of what's going on. But in a way, it's like you're stepping into a movie theater and very specific sequences will be delivered to make you feel better. And this is a kind of interactive theater. That's another idea that I will be sharing with you guys. And please sign up with my Facebook and also sign up with my YouTube channel. I basically have neglected the YouTube channel. So I'm right now in the process of building up a large subscriber base. Our goal is basically every week is to go out there and really help people, show them a couple of techniques. A lot of the stuff in NLP you can find in a book, but you actually have to learn it and practice it with others. And that's really the key to what I'm shooting for tonight. I'm in a way I'm looking forward because we really need to step forward. Sometimes destiny calls us to step forward and make a difference and help your other human being. It's through practice that we get to ennoble ourselves. And this is really what I'm hoping to do. I hope some of you can join me either in the program or just getting the word out. Or if you have other skills that might contribute to raising awareness about what's going on, I definitely welcome to hear from you, because my goal above everything is to create a program that helps others. And it's not just about me or about a business or about an opportunity. We've got plenty of that now. But what we don't have enough is really skilled professionals. Now, the telehealth industry, which I spoke about, is a booming industry. In fact, let me just, before I finish here, let me just show you a couple of things that I found over the last couple of days. Give me 1 second here. Okay. But here are some of the, internet. Oh, here we go. We got one. Okay, telehealth expansion could become a permanent after the pandemic. That's one. Essentially saying that this online shift that we've been talking about is going to be permanent. A lot of people are more comfortable interacting online, while before it was perhaps the domain of a certain niches, certain demographics. Now everybody is doing it. Okay, let me show you another one if I can get it here. Okay, right. Right, let me see here, find it. Okay. Oh, here we go. This one is from the San Francisco Gate. Hey. Telehealth expansion become a permanent after the pandemic. They're essentially saying the same thing. So from a business standpoint, which is really the last thing I really want to talk about, but from a business standpoint, the telehealth industry is booming and it will continue to grow. By telehealth means clients, mental telehealth, who are interested in talking to online. A lot of clients before then wanted to meet live, but let's face it, let's assume there might be another lockdown or another pandemic or something else in the fall, and people rush back home. Do you want to lose your job, or do you want to go and wait for another stimulus check, or do you want to have something to back you up? So I would encourage you to at least consider the possibility of getting training in this, because if they're lockdown or no lockdown, this will be a supplementary skill that you can use under any circumstance. And in fact, your customer base is essentially the whole country, not just New York City. So part of our program is also to help people design and develop uh, other their businesses. So it's you won't be entering cold, but you'll be able to really help others. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. I'm really happy some of you joined. I know you guys are very busy, have a lot of things in your mind. I just wanted to add this to for consideration. Essentially, let's get the word out. Let's build a movement, a grassroots movement of helping people. It's not about relying on government or relying on the social system or relying on therapists. There just aren't enough of them. We need to create more. We're still at war. This is the war to help others, to get others take the next step forward. So any skills, any contacts, any way to spread the message, more than welcome. So I hope I haven't bored you too much with our talk. I'm really happy you joined me, and stay in touch. We'll I'll be sending out some more of these videos in the next couple of weeks, and hope to hear from you. Think about some suggestions, and look, stay well, stay strong, and there will be a tomorrow. So there's light at the end of the tunnel for all of us who have lost dear ones or who are ourselves. And just remember there's always something out on the other side. Just keep that in mind. Okay, God bless.